My program for the future is to remain free for life. (1995), Calanque, France. Patrick Edlinger was climbing nonchalantly and elegantly on a 7B route. After jumping a few bolts, a handhold explodes under his hands. He takes a fall of 18 meters. During the flight, his heart stops. Not metaphorically, he has a real cardiac arrest. He is resuscitated urgently by a doctor on the spot and manages to recover without serious consequences, returning to climbing at the highest level, even in free solo. An unforgettable figure in the golden age of climbing in the 1980s, he was an icon of elegance, technique, and power. With Jerry Moffitt, Maurizio Zanola, aka Manolo, Wolfgang Gulick, and Patrick Berholt, says Fabio Palma, Edlinger was one of the 5 cornerstones of the explosion of free climbing in the early 1980s. But Patrick was not just an extraordinary climber. He was a media icon, hailed by Paris Match as a true star. His epic feats, immortalized in cult films such as La Vie en bout de doigt and Opéra Vertical, have captured the imagination of thousands of young people. His distinctive style, with splits over 180 degrees and runs through the woods before challenging the walls in Verdun, has transcended the simple act of climbing. As Palma says, it is something that transcends the personal, technical level, one's character, and enters that nebulous world in which the terms idea, archetype, model appear. Edlinger, born in Dax in 1960, began climbing at a very young age, inspired by his mountain-loving parents. His early passion for climbing grew, leading him to become one of the most recognized climbers of the 1980s. His solos on Pelvoux, Pic Coolidge, and Elefroide in the early 1970s put him on the map, but it was in the 1980s that he reached the height of his fame. As a man, he was a shy person. He could seem gruff at times, but hid a very sweet fragility, reflects friend Luca Beek. His magnetic presence, characterized by long blonde hair, sculptural physique, and deep-set eyes, made him an aesthetic as well as athletic icon. Edlinger's philosophy on climbing was a mix of hedonism, respect for nature, and the pursuit of the limit. Climbing for me is a way of life, not just a sport, he says. It is an excuse to travel the world, to find new places and new people. The most important thing is to stay free all my life. That's my real agenda for the future. Flying was, in his philosophy, an indispensable aspect of climbing. He writes in his book, Grimper pratique el plaisir. The beginner must learn very quickly to fly as early as his 2nd or 3rd day of climbing. His progress will be markedly more rapid, and he will avoid certain stresses likely to stall him. This vision, rooted in a time when free climbing was still an object of suspicion, broke the mold and opened new horizons. Le Blonde was not only an extraordinary athlete, but also a pioneer in the opening style. In Bieux, in 1982, he climbed the first 7B on site. Captain Crochet, followed by the world's first 7C, La Polka des Ringards. In 1983, he reached the level of 8A. His dedication to the limestone walls of Provence, particularly in Sius, is evident in the many routes he opened. In 1988, in Chateauvert, he first climbed the 8B+ of Are You Ready? And in 1989, it was the turn of the free solo of Orange Mécanique, 8A in Simaï. In the same year, he climbed routes up to 8C grades such as Maginot Line in Vaux and Azincourt in Biou. His complex relationship with competitions, highlighted by the Manifesto of 19 in 1985, reflects his view of climbing as a personal quest and refuge from institutionalized patterns. His involvement in competitions such as Sportrecha and the World Cup circuit came later, but his resistance to convention remained intact. His life has been an odyssey of challenges, daring flights, and a relentless pursuit of freedom. As he himself said, he knew he had become a legend, so he had to keep dreaming. The blonde will remain a legend, an icon who left an indelible mark on modern climbing. His tragic end, marked by drinking problems and a fatal domestic accident, closed the chapter of a living legend, but his free spirit and philosophy remain engraved in the soul of the climbing.
Pas de thé là, il fait beau, hein, c'est clair. Ouais. Superbe. Ouais, ça va tenir normalement. Elle a de la gueule cette planche. Super. Tu as vu les dalles grises ça? Ouais. Bon, allez garçons, on y va? Ouais. Allez.